Okay, welcome everybody to the Greenfork Food for Thought podcast. We have our first returning guest, Pat Campbell from Ecotone Health.
Honored to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on again. I was here the other day doing a little bit of the tech art therapy, and I was like, man, I really love everything you're doing. So I want to have you back on and just talk about some of the stuff that you have going on. Last time we kind of talked about like physical therapy and health and like from a general perspective, but I really want the people to know like what you do here and what you have to offer. And because it's so great, you know. I'm really into all the methods of recovery and all the like the different things that you can do to be like your best self, you know.
Sure.
I've always been into sort of alternative types of working out, you know, like yoga, body weight movement. You have the steel maces out there, like the kettlebells and, you know, stuff like that. So you're doing a lot of cool stuff here. So, you know, I just wanted to talk about it.
Well, you know, what's interesting is sometimes I think those, I don't want to call them alternate styles of training, but more of like a flow type movement is sometimes lumped into recovery, but it's still very active in nature. So it's an interesting... It's like, I'm not going to do my hard style powerlifting, but I'm going to do kettlebell flow or steel mace flow. And it's still active in nature. So it's not quite recover. It's it's in this gray area.
It's still working out. I think we were talking the other day about, you know, how I'm getting kind of bored with like traditional exercising, you know, like bench pressing, squatting, deadlifting, you know, overhead pressing, like all that stuff is great. And it's there for a reason. It's very effective, you know, but I'm getting more into a space where I just like to kind of just flow and like create things and create new waves of movement, like, or ways of movement. I was messing around with the landmines the other day and just kind of experimenting with different sequences and putting them together. And that ended up, and I'm messing around with them, and all of a sudden my heart rate's like, you know, 180. I'm like, oh crap, like this is intense. This is good. So without even knowing it, I'm exercising. It feels more like play.
Yeah. And your heart doesn't know the difference as long as it's beating fast.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, I feel like I get like a total body workout from it, you know, because I'm utilizing all my muscles and, you know, getting a little bit of cardio conditioning into it. But, you know, I don't register it as like doing 100 snatches in a row. It's not the same way, you know? And I've kind of been into that, and I would lump in like the kettlebell flow and like the steel mace. Just, you know, you're so focused on what you're doing because it involves a lot of coordination and things like that, that you forget that you're working out, like you're exercising, right?
Yeah. I think too, even if you were trying to, depending on if you were doing like mobility or motor control activity where you're really trying to hone in a new pattern, you'll see a lot of people will maybe break a sweat, they'll breathe, they'll hold their breath, they won't, it's difficult for them to, like, it's not a resting activity because their nervous system is working so hard to figure out what the task that they're asking them to, or the task that you're asking them to do.
I took a workshop with you a couple months ago. It was a long time ago.
Cars and coffee.
So we talked about cars the last time we were on, but it's like a controlled articular
rotations.
So, and like to your point before, it's really, you're singling out like one joint, right, at a time. But the mind-body connection, the mental physical awareness that it takes, you can bust a sweat just doing that.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. And it kind of shows you what you have access to.
Yeah.
The creator of that system, Dr. Spina, will often say, you can't move where you can't move.
Yeah.
And it's so simple, but you know, when you get to the top and you can't rotate, it can be very telling.
And you know, I've been to workshops before where like you start from the very, very basic principles. So like with the landmine, there's a thing called the corkscrew, where you're just kind of moving side to side, bringing your hip to your elbow, hip to the other elbow. And that takes so much coordination that you forget that your body's working, and you're like, all of a sudden, oh crap, I'm sweating and I'm sore the next day. And I just did this super small, tiny little movement. And I think that kind of comes into play with what I was talking about before, like when you're just so focused on that mind body connection, you forget that like you're really challenging yourself in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's like with the mobility, with the cars and the active recovery.
Sure.
When you're moving really slow and with a lot of intention and awareness around, you know, your joints or what everything in your body is supposed to be doing, it just hits different. And I kind of like that a little bit more than just like cranking out reps, you know?
Do you think that comes with as we get a little older and wiser and our body change it? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Because I feel like there's a trend, like, you know, you reach a certain point, because you also see like thought leaders in our field, they're also kind of getting our age, if you will, or a little bit older. And it seems like a lot of people are shifting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do wonder if there is a component of what worked when you were 20 and 30 doesn't work as well when you're 40, 50, 60.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, those years we'll find out.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I'd just basically do a lot of barbell work, you know, and that was pretty much it. I was pretty into yoga too, so that kind of helped even me out, I think. But a lot as far as weightlifting goes, it was all barbell. And I think it did me a disservice because it built my structure in a certain way. And now I'm having to pay for it later, you know, but it's a constant, the body and movement is a constant exploration. We're always digging into what feels good, what's going to make us feel better, what our goals are, where we want to go and stuff. And so, you know, maybe it's just, it is just this phase of life where I don't really care how much I can bench anymore. I'd rather just be able to not be in pain, you know?
I think that's that's the target audience that I get is some of them, they don't have injuries per se. They just want to feel better in their body.
Yeah.
And it is a challenge because the volume of workout and the volume of recovery or joint specific activity or tissue maintenance, they never add up.
Yeah.
You know, like it's 10 minutes a day is better than nothing. But if you do a 60-minute workout and then you do 10 minutes of recovery.
Yeah. I see that too often.
Yeah. It's never in your favor. And I think several years ago, there was kind of a phase in like our world where it was like, you know, people got so into corrective exercise and so into mobility that their workouts at the gym became like, you know, it takes you 30 minutes to warm up. So then there was a shift in the paradigm where it was like, no, like you should have a 5 to 7 minute warm up. You should, like when you're at the gym, you train. And I think I think it all depends, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, I feel like for myself, when I work out, like it does take me 15 or 20 minutes to feel good in my body.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and that takes some scanning, whether that's cars or joint mobilizations or a little bit of tissue work. I mean, I know that I can jump into a workout. I just don't feel as good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And you might end up with like a little injury or something, you know, like a little tweak or something.
Yeah. And hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah.
But you know, running, right? I always find that my best runs are when I've given myself 15 minutes to warm up.
Yeah.
You know, whether that's just some calf work, whether that's some like light bounces and hopping, whether that's opening up, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, my runs are always more efficient versus, you know, I've got 20 minutes, like, let me put my shoes on and I'll get 15 and, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
those are the runs that don't go well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's because people are in a time crunch or it's just not as fun to do. You know, like nobody wants to spend, I enjoy that part now. That's like,
because it's exploration. It's kind of like play. You're trying to solve a problem to a certain degree.
Yeah. I enjoy that more than like the actual workout sometimes. And, you know, like last weekend, you know, I worked like 8 hours and I went to the gym, I had it all to myself. I had the lights out and I was just kind of rolling around on the floor doing my own yoga practice. And it was really,
Brendan and I were talking about that.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. You know, it's just, like I was just exploring my body and feeling out and doing what I needed to do. And, you know, I definitely busted a sweat. Like I was in there working, but it was a different type. And I really kind of enjoy that a little bit more. But most folks that I see come into the gym, you know, they're there for 40 minutes. We do some warm-ups, we do some joint mobilization, but not enough, you know, because we want to get to the workout. We want to get people working and sweating. And then afterwards, I'm like, all right, guys, we have 10, 15 minutes. Like, foam roll, grab a band, stretch out, do what you got to do, but everybody's out the door and like on with the rest of their lives. And I doubt that they do any sort of thing at home to recover. So, recovery, like, let's talk about recovery, like how important it is. I think, like you said, like it doesn't even out. We push our bodies, and people don't understand that when you work out, you're breaking things down.
Yeah.
And so if you want to get stronger and come back the next day stronger, which is the goal, you have to recover properly. And it's not just going about your day. It's everything with nutrition, the way you sleep, and then, your sort of active recovery or even passive recovery, like stuff that you have here and whatever. So, recovery is super important, and you sort of have built a business, at least partly around, the necessity for recovery.
Yeah, I think, so I think recovery starts with like a well-programmed training program.
Yeah.
Well-programmed. I don't know if that makes sense, but
a
good program,
sure.
right? I read something recently that was out of a textbook. It was like a fascial textbook. It sounds like I'm a nerd saying that out loud, but, and it was, and I'm probably, if somebody fact checks this, I'm going to probably get it wrong, but essentially what it was talking about was, exercise breaks you down, but then it builds you back up.
Yeah.
And there is a window of, and they study this, of tissue adaptation, specifically the fascia. And what they were looking at was somebody goes and works out, and you get this little bit of a spike. So if you have this baseline number, you get a little bit of a spike after the workout, and then you dip down below where you would normally be for about 24 to 48 hours. And then if everything goes well, you hypercompensate. So then you're further than where you were with that initial bump.
Yeah, that's ideal.
Yeah. And the authors said that based on that time frame and a 7-day week, that realistically we should be training for about 2 to 3 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you hear that, you go, oh man, like, no wonder there's so many, soft tissue related injuries, sprains, strains, because a lot of it could just be like, well, you're coming in, you do a workout 5 days a week, and there's nothing wrong with that per se. But are you giving yourself the physiological time to actually recover, hypercompensate, and not lose range of motion, which we talked about in the last podcast, like maintain good tissue tone, build good so maybe we're all just overtraining.
I probably, and it's also the way you train, like the programming too. I know that like there's different styles to it. Like if you do a total body program and you do that every day, you definitely have to incorporate some sort of active recovery to sort of speed that process along. But bodybuilders have a good way of doing it where like they target one muscle group at a time. So let's say I'm doing it, hammer your legs one day, like for 2 hours. And then you don't do legs for the next week. So theoretically you're allowing your legs to recover so that you can train another body part for the next day. But does it really work like that?
I think in a bodybuilding world, they have access to more, like if you're in a gym like the YMCA or Planet Fitness, I think there's different ways to target your quads and your hamstrings and all these other muscle groups. I think if you're in a functional fitness gym, like where you are, again, like the space here, I don't think you have as much variety, because now it's just compound movements of, all right, we're either going to do knee dominant, hip dominant, push, press, pull, push.
Push,
pull, right? Vertical, horizontal. So I guess you could do some accessory work, but I think in a like more of a globo gym, you have more access to ways to isolate. Versus in functional training, I don't think you do.
Right. Yeah, for a reason,
right?
Because it is more functional, and but so if I hammer my legs and then give myself a week to recover, does that allow does the rest of my body get taxed, and am I fully recovering still, like to the point where am I reaching that hypercompensation yet?
I think maybe at the tissue level, the tissue and the joints have probably recovered, but I don't know if your nervous system has recovered.
Right.
That would be my, I don't know for sure, but that would be my if you have a really heavy leg day and then the next day you're doing like chest, your nervous system still has to put out the signal to to create the movement, right? So even though you're not asking the legs to do as much, like how much of that is like a nervous system drive?
Yeah. And that's important with athletes too. I just saw Kelly Starlett. Starlett. He was just talking about like Bang energy drinks and nicotine pouches for athletes. And he's like, you shouldn't rely on any of that stuff because, you know, you want to naturally be at that homeostasis and naturally ride that curve that you're talking about. And when you take things like caffeine, you're borrowing time, they say, right? So you're allowing, you can maybe get that nervous system spike, but it's too much for your body to handle. And with the nicotine too, it's like the same thing, but now you're reliant on substances to get you where you need to be. And, you know, that's no good because you want to just ride that wave naturally.
And that could be pre-workout too.
Right. I mean, pre-workouts, stuff like that, you know. And then people in bodybuilding world, especially, people take, you know, substances to help recovery. And, and then, you know, there's that whole thing too. But
yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I had this, I had continuing ed, and it was one of the topics of like recovery came up, and the instructor was a chiropractor in Austin who previously had a stint where he was the strength and conditioning coach for the New Orleans Saints. And like, so he was tying a lot of things in with his experience there. And he goes, really, like, and I know this is, it's repetitive in nature, but he's like, really, like the only true recovery is rest.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's, he goes, in his mind, he goes, there's no such thing as an active recovery. And now again, like I think there probably is, but I think his point was like, if you're truly trying to recover, like you have to like not be doing anything. So, you know,
that's why you see like pro athletes and pro bodybuilders or whatever, like they just work out and they go home and eat and then they rest. They sit on the couch. But that leads into
like this sort of stuff, right?
Sort of the stuff that you have to offer here. To enhance recovery, right? I feel like you can speed up that recovery process because when you're here, you are resting, but you're also like, let's take the chair and the Normatec, right?
Sure.
So how does that speed up your recovery process?
Well, so my understanding of Normatec is that for anybody who doesn't know, Normatec it's compression therapy. So it creates a pumping action that's meant to stimulate what like the muscle contraction that would occur in your legs. And it's supposed to be from a distal to proximal, so further away from your heart to closer to your heart. And that compression therapy has been around for a while, specifically in like more acute cases like lymphedema. And then I guess Normatec was the company. They got bought by Hyper. It was like this whole thing, but the technology was originally created for athletes. So, you know, if you're a professional athlete and let's just say you're playing and then you're jumping on a plane, you're traveling, you know, the old, like that active recovery would be get on a bike and do a flush or walk on the treadmill, right?
Yeah.
The idea with Normatec is you can be more passive and the device will create a sequential pumping action that should mimic what's happening at your tissue to create the physiological effect for clearing and improving fluid dynamics without you having to exert the energy to do so.
Right.
And I had a friend, shout out Dr. Eric Cullen, who I don't know if he probably won't be listening, but he's in Sarasota. I went to school with him. He was a really high level swimmer at University of Maryland and was good enough to qualify for trials. And he talked about how we were watching the Olympics one year and he was kind of describing what those athletes will do. Like he was describing that depending on the event, like a true taper would be like, you are doing nothing.
Yeah.
Like he was describing that if his swimming event was the next day after the opening ceremonies, he's like, I wouldn't participate in it because it would be too much walking, too much like stimulation. And like, if you're trying to truly taper and peak, he's like, everything is accounted for. And I had no idea.
To a T. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the compression sleeves, in other words, like, you know, when you're breaking down muscle tissue, there's inflammation that occurs, right? And that inflammation is good. And the best way to kind of recover would be to just increase blood flow to that area so the inflammation can do its job. We can get nutrients into the muscles, into the joints, into everything, and kind of flush out all that stuff that you built up while you were working out.
Yeah, you want to create an environment for your body to like do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. And so with the compression, you're increasing blood flow, you're increasing the movement through the tissue, right? While being in a passive state, like you said. But then you sit in this chair too, and this is more of a nervous system thing too, to help down regulate, right? Because you have.
So it's called Vibroacoustic therapy. So the chair is by Therabody. I get no plugs or anything. But essentially what I was running into was I had the Normatec probably, I think around like 2020. So I've had them for a while, and I would put people in an anti-gravity chair on the table in a relaxed position, and they were relaxing, but they were like on their phone doing emails. And sometimes I was like, oh, do you want your phone? Because you're going to be like hanging out for 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah. And most people would be like, oh yeah, I'll get a couple things done. So when I was kind of building out the practice, I wanted to have a way for people to recover, but I also wanted them to disconnect.
Yeah.
So
that's important.
It is. Yeah. So the chair has a playlist that basically comes with it. That's it's like neural music, neural beats, and
frequencies that put your nervous system in a certain.
Yeah. They're designed to like regulate you or
yeah.
down regulate you. And, you don't just hear the frequencies, but you feel the frequencies via the vibration.
Yeah.
So when you have that with the Normatec leg compression, and you throw the headphones on, you hear the music, it really allows you to just like let go.
Yeah.
It's like an adult timeout.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think like you said, with a professional athlete, like if they take it really seriously, they're probably doing something similar. Like they're just laying in a bed, no sound, just really relaxing, not looking at emails, not watching TV, not stimulated in any way, but like a deep relaxation.
Well, what's interesting, and I've never worked in a professional setting, but I love those like Netflix shows where they're like in the team rooms.
Yeah.
I always find it fascinating. If you watch those shows and you see an athlete recover, they're often on a table with somebody doing body work, and they're all on their phones.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And in my head, I would want to think that I would ask them to be like, hey, like, is it, I understand, like, I'm sure that there's lots of things that come with being a professional athlete.
Check your Instagram, make sure your followers are up.
But like, seriously, if you ever watch those shows, if they're getting body work done, I feel like there's a 70-80% chance the athlete is on their phone, like, while the body worker is just working.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just the nature of the business, but I would think like you would want to be in an area or a mindset where you're just like connected.
Yeah.
And I always find that fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. I mean, if you have top athletes and top trainers and recovery specialists and everything, you'd get them to get off their phones and get into a deep, relaxing state where recovery can happen.
Yeah.
Right. We can be most efficient at what we're doing. And that's what they should be doing. Right. And that's what you're doing here with
that's what we try and do.
We try and do. And you get some athletes in here, right? Like, our friend Jody, who works right over there. Yeah. She's a triathlete. She's a beast. She does Ironmans and ultra Ironmans and all that stuff. And, we were joking with her the other day, like, you just do it all, don't you? And it's like, yeah, you should try everything as far as recovery goes. She's done the plasma, PRP, plasma replacement.
Oh, yeah.
She comes in here, probably does this stuff. It's great. I mean, I feel like you hit it from all angles. Anything you can do, you should at least try it.
Well, you were describing going to Dr. Nelson's office and doing the heat, the cold, vibration plates, sauna. I mean,
there's so many different methods and techniques that you can do to kind of optimize yourself in the name of recovery. My good friend, Dr. Craig Nelson, has an office, and he's got red light therapy. He's got a hot sauna, just a regular dry heat sauna. He's got a vibrating plate. He's got like a little exercise area, and he's got a cold plunge as well.
Yeah.
And so he was nice enough to let me use that for whenever I want, really. And it helps.
Yeah.
You know, the cold plunge, it's got its benefits. The sauna, I just love a dry heat sauna. Like I get in there and meditate, and it's just, I sweat it out, and I like to sweat, and it feels good. I don't know any of the scientific benefits necessarily. I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but for me, it's just, it feels good.
Yeah.
And I feel well rested. I feel well recovered, and I'm able to wake up the next day and feel good again.
Yeah.
You know, instead of beat up. And I think there's just something to be said for that. But there are valid scientific reasons and research done on all these recovery techniques that, like, you know, it does help you. It is proven that it works.
Well, you know, it's funny too. I mean, I remember back to when I was in school, and you know, we took we had a class. It was a 2-part semester class where it was physiological therapeutics. So most of the stuff that was out there that would be considered like a physical therapy modality. So electrical stim, ultrasound, TechR therapy, laser, red light, like, you know, we went through it. And I, like, you know, the professors always presented like what understanding we had of it and how it worked. But it was always kind of like, yeah, like, you know, if you're evidence informed, like, you don't do that. Or if you have the option to do an exercise versus doing a passive therapy where the electrical stim creates the contraction, you always choose the exercise because like it's better.
Yeah.
And I go back and forth. Sure. I think that we've created such a shift where people are redlining more likely than they're doing nothing.
Right.
And I do, like, like this whole business, like, I mean, my background is in fitness. I have a degree in exercise science. I've gone through a lot of movement retraining.
Yeah.
But a lot of people come here because they want manual work and they want recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they have people like you in their world where, like, you're doing the programming, they're going to the workouts.
Yeah.
And it's not that we can't collaborate, but like, if they come in here, do they need another workout? Right. Like, what am I going to do that's necessarily different if they already have that? Like, but if I can downregulate their nervous system, like take a hot spot and calm it down and give them some strategies, like it's taken me a while, but it seems like that's where I fit into people's world.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think we're taught, like, no, like everything should be active.
Yeah.
Like if you're, you know, and you see these, again, you see it on social media, it's usually people that, like, they sell self-administered exercise programs. So there's something to that, and no knock or anything. Yeah. But they're taking things and they're like putting a hypervolt and an e-stimulant, and they're saying this won't fix your pain. And then they just put up like exercise will. And I'm like, it's like, it's a gray area.
Yeah.
Like,
I think they both will.
I know. You know? Like, why can't we have both?
Yeah. 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 You know, when did you go to school? How many years ago?
I graduated in 2015. So it's been 10 years.
So since then, you know, more research into these things that back then were kind of new. And so, of course, and same thing with nutrition. Like when I went to school, it's like, you know, all these different diets and they're like carnivore, keto, or whatever. You know, we kind of shied away from that stuff. And it's like, here's the evidence, here's the science behind it. And, you know, there's still people that are like that, but there is something to be said for different ways of feeding your body. And there's something to be said for different techniques, recovery techniques, just like anything. The world is growing, the science is growing and giving us more information. So it's not 2015 anymore, you know?
Well, and our biology is also really difficult to study and create a randomized control trial where people are blinded. Like, you either know if you're getting the therapy or not. Like, you know, you went through TechR therapy, so you know what it feels like.
Yeah.
If we did a sham treatment where the device wasn't on, I think you would know that, like, there's no heat being generated.
Yeah.
You know, like it's so some of these things. How do you test it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm of the headspace where, like, you know, I'll try anything. I'll believe it, you know, until it's like, okay, that doesn't work. And, to be honest with you, I don't really care about the science so much. If it makes me feel good, that's proof enough for me. Anecdotal, it's fine.
And I was thinking I was just having this conversation with somebody earlier, and there's a podcaster. His name is Dr. Mike, who's also a medical doctor, and he's featured, he's out in the public eye.
Yeah.
I think he still practices. He practices at a community health center, but then he also has a very thriving online business. The way that's spreading what good information on healthcare, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his podcasts are very interesting because he brings in people that are more on the wellness side of things that might be medical doctors, and they have these conversations.
Yeah.
And it's almost they'll talk about what's the difference between pharmaceuticals and supplements.
Yeah.
And I think if you were to take that a notch down, there are complementary providers, which would be something like physical therapy, chiropractic, acupuncture. Mm-hmm. And then there's another subset of wellness. And it's interesting because some of the things that are regulated, sometimes the FDA gets a bad rap, rightfully so at times, but it's also, that's a way to just know that whatever thing you're doing, it's actually saying that it's going to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to bring this full circle, I might be rambling a little bit, but I just saw something popped up on my social media feed, and it was a portable ultrasound device for direct to consumer.
Oh, wow.
And it's $85, and they have coaches and athletes that are describing it. And it's hey, here's your direct to consumer ultrasound device. And it has set frequencies, and they're this is what we're trying to target. And if you go back, it's well, unless that device is clear, and I don't know if it is or not, if it is or it isn't, because I didn't go down that much of a rabbit hole. I'm thinking for $85, probably not.
Yeah.
But if it's not FDA cleared, you don't know what frequencies it's actually doing, and whether or not every single device is doing that.
Yeah.
And that goes into CBD and
all the supplements.
The supplements.
Yeah. They all have a benefit, but at what dose? And how much is actually in the product.
And as long as they say they have what they're supposed to have.
Yeah.
It is a really interesting, right? Do you feel that way?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You can say whatever you want. You could sell somebody a pill that's rice flour and tell them, it's got creatine.
Yeah.
So here, you're going to get bigger muscles. You're going to, recover faster, blah, blah, blah. And it's you can say anything you want, and doesn't mean it's true. And the direct to consumer, ultrasound, that seems dangerous, because we were talking about how it's easy to get burned. People that's serious technology. If you hold it in one spot at a high frequency for long enough, you can do some damage to your muscles. And
I would think so.
Yeah. I mean, so to trust that in the hands of somebody that doesn't know what they're doing seems a little sketchy.
Yeah, but the same way, TENS units are $50 on Amazon, and that's electrical current too.
Yeah. And high dose levels of supplements that people don't know what they're doing. They could be, poisoning their bodies with stuff. And yeah, it's a crazy world out there. I mean, I would rather talk to a professional and,
When I think that it does bring up that idea of you do want to make sure whatever you're utilizing, maybe you don't have to understand the science of it, but you just want to make sure that whatever it's supposed to be doing is, somebody looked at that as a third party and said, no, we know that these frequencies are actually set at this parameter, and this is what they're doing. Yeah.
So who's regulating it, right?
Yeah. And you'll see some supplement companies, they'll have third party testers to make sure that their products are clean.
Yeah.
Medical devices, you'll see that they'll have some sort of FDA clearance on them.
Yeah.
Because that can be important.
Yeah. Absolutely. And they should come with some sort of education around how to use them.
Yeah.
When you got this TechR machine, the WinBack thing, I'm sure you had to learn how to use it, right? You didn't just buy it and say, okay, here we go, let me experiment on people.
No, so it came with an online learning platform. There were 2 calls with two of their team members. The lead clinician was the former head of sports medicine for the Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA. So they've got a really good team, that is there to support us as clinicians, and understand how to best utilize it.
Yeah.
And there's still a bit of a learning curve.
Sure. It's it's new technology.
TechR's been around. So why don't we go?
Yeah,
let's talk about tech?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So TechR is transfer of energy, capacitive and resistive.
Okay.
So it's a radio frequency therapy. An alternating current. So that would be similar to if you've ever used a TENS unit or an EMS, which is the one that actually gets the contraction. The frequencies for this device, WinBack is a medically cleared device, so it's not an Amazon purchase. The company's out of France, and it got FDA cleared for use in the States in 2017.
Okay.
So prior to that, TechR therapy was very big in Europe. I think it might have started in Italy, and then WinBack was out of France. There's a couple companies that are making what I would consider the more well-known devices, right?
Yeah.
Because I do think there is some reputation that matters.
Sure.
Because you want the device to do what it says it's going to do. What it allows me to do as a provider is, depending on the tissue that we want to treat, we use a certain current to treat that tissue. So the currents mainly work on 3 components. So it depolarizes the cell, so it makes your cell more metabolically active. When the cell becomes more metabolically active, it creates heat, which increases blood flow and circulation. So there is a warming effect with it. And then just the current will interfere with nociceptors, or the fibers that sense pain. So it will kind of block those pain signals, if you will, similar to what would happen if you had TENS, like a TENS unit on. But because the current goes deeper, the TENS will hitch a ride on the current, and it'll actually get deeper nerve fibers. So you tend to have a longer effect.
Okay.
So cellular health and metabolic activity, improve circulation, heat, diathermy from the inside out, not external heat, and then pain control. Those are the 3 areas that we use this for.
Yeah. You did it on me on Monday, and it felt great. It was very unique.
It's an interesting feeling.
Yeah, if you could feel the heat not coming from the applicator, the metal thing that you were rubbing you down with. It wasn't coming from there. It was coming from in me. Because
your cells start increasing their activity, and you generate heat.
That's cool.
So the higher the intensity, the more energy. So that creates more heat.
Yeah.
So what's really why I'm so giddy on this is there's lots of different newer therapies that are out there. There's laser, which tends to work on mitochondrial health, as well as I think red light therapy. There's shockwave, which is a sound therapy similar to ultrasound, but works at a deeper layer to create an inflammatory response to get deeper healing. This acts on the cell, and again, those other areas in terms of improving local circulation, heat, and nerve saturate or nociceptor saturation. But what's really nice about it is if you rolled your ankle, you wouldn't want to drive heat to that area right away. But we could still deliver the energy at a very low dose to not heat you up, but still get the cells to become more metabolically active.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and then as you progress into more a subacute phase, if you still have some local swelling, what we could do is we could then increase the heat to create an environment to improve microcirculation to get the swelling out.
Yep.
And if you had a more chronic issue, we could actually utilize more energy at a deeper current to stimulate more collagen synthesis for more chronic injuries.
Yeah.
So depending on where somebody falls, as long as there's no contraindications like pregnancy, cancer, infection, those are the big 3. Also, we don't use it on kids because of growth plates. As long as there's no contraindication, we can use it as a supplement to specifically target the phase of healing that individual is in to support them.
Yeah.
Which is really neat. And then the RET, which is the deeper current. So CET is basically more soft tissue, so skin, fascia, muscles. RET is resistive, so that's going to go to the level of the joint, so it's a much deeper. That was the one with the metal applicator, or where I was using my hand.
Yeah.
And again, it's more of a lighter heat, and again, it's that like internal to external is usually the way people describe it. Mm-hmm. We can couple that with high tens for pain control. So again, if it was acute, we would use a higher frequency, like 25 hertz for like short-term relief. If it was more chronic and we wanted, 12 to 48 hour windows of relief, we would use 5 hertz to 2 hertz. And then if we wanted to help kind of facilitate muscles re-educating, we can tie in EMS, which creates a contraction.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
that's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah.
You can I could use it as long as somebody liked it, if they felt the benefit of it. We could use it along their entire treatment program.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how often do you have to do that? Like, say you had like a slight tear or something and you were trying to heal from it.
So and again, it depends on like where you are with the injury and like, what phase of healing you're in and what the goals are. Most people that I've seen, it's probably somewhere like 6 to 12 sessions.
Okay.
I think is like a good time frame.
Yeah.
Most people you'll feel a benefit right away. Like, and you might be able to speak on that, like just getting up and moving it around. But then because it's no different from red light therapy or sauna, like you want to stack that sensation over a week or two to really get the benefits from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So
it's not an instant fix.
It's not. Yeah. It is an instant sensation, which can often like dull symptoms pretty quick, but it's not like a one shot and you're done.
Yeah.
And it's very comfortable.
It is. Yeah.
So compared to deep tissue work or trigger point work, dry needling, again, if that's your thing, that's fine.
Yeah.
This is very gentle.
Yeah.
Or at least it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt that way. I've had deep tissue medical massages before where, it works. It's very painful and it works. And you walk out of there sore and you're sore the next day and, it works, but there's a lot of pain involved. And this seems like, you can really target an area without like muscle scraping or anything that leaves some soreness.
Well, what's interesting is you actually can do scraping with this when you apply the bracelet.
Yeah. Well, you can stack stuff onto it, right? Like you were saying, like the contraction units and,
Well, you can stack that, but also like, so I could, if I put the bracelet on, which allows me to deliver RET, my hand becomes the conductor.
Yeah. That's
and
cool.
If I'm holding an instrument, now the current gets delivered through the blade.
Yeah. So
So you can scrape
both
and get current at the same time.
And you were saying that you can also kind of do some mobility work at the same time as well?
So there's adhesive pads that, so as long as the person is grounded and you're delivering the current through the region, you can use adhesive pads and you can go through functional movement with it.
Yeah.
And the concept of the way that the current is delivered, the more resistive a tissue is. So if you had an old injury, so you had fibrotic tissue, degenerative joints, again, like we're going to assume that the joint capsule is probably is more fibrotic. That will be a better conductor. So that tissue will be a better absorber of the energy.
Yeah.
If you contract the tissue, now you can saturate the current into all the different areas of the tissue that actually like really need it.
Yeah.
So you can almost like supercharge your workout.
Just coming to mind is, would that pair nicely with like a blood flow restriction?
It probably would.
Yeah.
I think there's probably providers that are doing that. I've never ventured into that.
I was talking to my friend who's got golfer's elbow, right? Mm-hmm. And I was trying to tell him about blood flow restriction, where you kind of just pump that muscle full of fresh blood, kind of a simpler, easier way to do what we're kind of talking about, just to flush that area and get some new blood in there and new cells and recover quicker. But I imagine that, something like that paired with this would kind of double down on that.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder too if maybe you would start with Tech R to just like improve circulation, control pain, and then the blood flow restriction. I've never had one of the actual like occlusion cuffs, but my understanding is you're shunting blood flow to a certain level, where you will get the flush, but then what it allows you to do is work at a really low low resistance and get an effect as if you were at like an 85% max. And then you get the hormone component that comes with heavy resistance training as a result of working really light. So that's another recovery modality.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's so much out there and everything. I mean, it's great. And it's great that you're offering these different modalities. I mean, nobody's really doing it. And I think, I talked with my friend, Dr. Nelson, about it, and, there's all these different providers that are offering really cool different therapies locally. I think it'd be awesome if we could get everybody under one roof, it'd be cool. But, it's awesome that people in our community are doing cool things like this. And that's why I kind of have this podcast, is to shine a light on what people are doing in the health and wellness area. And, there's many more people that I have to interview. So many people have cool things to offer, like I said. And,
we appreciate it.
It's cool. It's cool that you've built a business around helping people recover. I think, like you said, there's plenty of gyms, there's plenty of places where you can go and get a workout. But people don't really talk about recovery quite as much. They may have a yoga class or, some sort of stretching. I know a guy that I had on is now doing a stretch zone. He's having stretch therapists come in and work on people. So that's cool. But, there should be more of a focus on recovery, because I always say, like, you work out an hour a day, what are you doing with the rest of your time? It should be focused on rebuilding yourself so that you can come back stronger the next day or the day after. With all these cool people in our community, what kind of collaborations have you done before? I know you did some workshops.
So iRun has been a big supporter. Did you have Jamie on the podcast? Or
no, I'd like to.
Okay. Yeah, she's great. So iRun has been a big supporter. Do you know Lindsay Cruz?
She used to be at the kettlebell.
So she has her own gym now in Burnt Hills. They built a beautiful like garage gym that's like right next door, which is really cool. Uplift Kettlebell Club we just did a foam rolling workshop there, and in January we're going to be doing a mobility series. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to target it around individual like patternized movements, and what's going to be like I hate optimize, but like improve your squat, right?
Sure.
So I'm going to try and break down the stuff that you need to have a good squat. We're going to put it into a class, because I thought that was a good way for people. You kind of know which movements you like and which ones like you struggle with. So, we'll have a press day, we'll have a squat day, we'll have a hinge day. So we're going to trial that for 4 weeks. I've done stuff with Train HD.
Shout out Anthony.
Shout out. He would be good to have on.
I got to get him on.
Because he's doing VO2 max testing over there.
I remember I messaged him when I first got this thing going, and I don't think we ever followed up, but I will for sure.
Shout out Anthony. And his whole team over there. Trying to think where else.
Did you do something with Mike at On the Move?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're hoping to, Mike.
So I'd love to get you over at Battleground.
I'm ready, man.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Yeah, I'll talk to Reba about that, because she's always doing different workshops. I think she's got one on specifically for women's health, postmenopausal hormone stuff.
I wanted to do one up for men's health too. I think that, you and I were talking about that a little bit. That could be a good, because, our bodies change. We're not.
I think people, as they get older, there's so much advertising out there for TRT. And people are just so quick to hop on like a hormone replacement. Even if you don't work out, you don't eat right, whatever, they're like, oh, get on TRT. It's like, no, there's certain things you can do before you just jump to stuff like that. And just, overall, like what drives us as biologically as men, it's important.
Well, I've had some people that have asked me about like stem cells and PRP and those regenerative therapies. And I think they're great. But I always tell people, like, make sure that you have like laid the groundwork first. So like, if you're planting a garden, like you would make sure the area has sun, the soil's good, you're watering it. If you're not doing those things, like a regenerative type treatment, like you've got to make sure everything is ready first.
Yeah.
And I think that goes in, like, if you're going to do one of those therapies, like set the groundwork, like get on a training program, do some cardio, make sure you're moving. Yeah. Are you eating well? Like good enough, Yeah,
there's no quick fixes.
No.
There's no magic medicine that's going to fix all your problems. You have to do the work, whether, whatever drug you're using or whatever supplements you're using. I see that peptides are big now. Like we went from the biohacking world, and now everyday people are getting into them. GLP-1s is a really popular one people are using for weight loss, and the same thing. Like before you hop on a weight loss medication, like let's get your diet in check. Let's get some sort of exercise in there.
Or just do it in conjunction.
In conjunction, yeah. So it's okay. Way. It's okay to take these things, right? Yeah. Like I feel like, if you need it to kickstart where you're at, it's a great tool that can be used, but it should be used in conjunction with, a baseline, like exercise and nutrition and sleep and hydration and all those pillars that we talk about. So you do a workshop anywhere. Yeah. Right. You could do one anywhere.
Well, and I actually want to start bringing people in here for community-based workshops because
more cars and coffee.
More cars and coffee. Right. And I thought about too, like, I'd taken some clients through just like basic kettlebell work, and I'm not certified per se. But I feel like my clinical training like should be enough, like as long as you understand the basics of it.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I've had some people that like they come in and we just work through like, all right, like let's get you really dialed in with what a swing should feel like.
Yeah.
And these are people that are out in the community classes and are like, oh, like nobody's ever broken it down this way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just because you don't have time in a class. Like, I mean, if you've got 10 bodies there, and if everybody's good enough, you're kind of like, okay, right? Like, I mean, we've all been there as coaches and trainers.
Yeah.
But here it can be like, hey, like, nope, like I want you to feel it this way, and we can try different things.
Yeah.
And then they take and they run with it. And that was another idea where I'm like, man, I could just have a class for like, let's just like hone in on the swing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know you do some movement stuff, like that would be fun.
Yeah, there's
flow.
I feel like every movement should require like an hour-long workshop on just that movement before you do it. There's just not enough time. Rebecca and I talk about it all the time. Like, let's do a squat workshop. Let's do a bench press workshop. Let's do a kettlebell. We've done like cleans, barbell cleans, kettlebell cleans, snatches. But as coaches, when we go to a workshop to learn about something, whether like I just did the Landmine one, was the last one I did years ago now. But like I said, we break it down from the very basics, and you really have to understand those things before you just jump in and start, ripping a landmine.
Yeah.
It's important. And I think the more that we can pass on that information from that ground level, the better understanding people can have. But, people have to be interested enough to
That's
come
the
and
other,
do it.
they want to,
And
I think that was what Lindsay did for the mobility workshop we did. It was basically like breathing and foam rolling.
Mm-hmm.
She just took the class time and she was like, nope, like Patrick's coming in and like we're doing foam roll.
Yeah. Oh, I wish we could just do that. I mean, there's so many pretty much guys.
I think she told them I was coming, but like, and there was a sign up, but it wasn't separate. It was like, nope, this is like the class substitution.
Yeah. Yeah. That way, you have a time slot where people can actually make it. If you try to do one on a Saturday or Sunday, it's like people are busy. Like, I don't really care that much, but if it's like a class time, like, okay, today we're just doing this as a substitute for I think, that'd be great. I forgot what I was going to say.
That's all right.
Something about workshops and just getting them in. They're super important. Like I said, when we take workshops, like a kettlebell swing, one of the first things I learned was before we even started swinging it, we put it into our chest and just worked on that hinge movement, right? Mm-hmm. I give so many different cues about a kettlebell swing, where it's basically a standing hip thrust That's what I like to use, right? It should be all in your hips. People complain about the low back and stuff. And especially when we get into the flow work, you know, it's easy to forget about your form while you're doing that stuff. And it's very important to keep the form as you're moving through these movements. But unless you know the foundational skills, it's going to be hard to do. You know?
And, you know, everybody learns differently. So you've just got to, that's why having trial and error, like some people are like, they need to feel things. Some people are visual. Some people like need verbal. So, you know.
Yep. All right. So we'll wrap up here. We got some people coming in, but thanks again for coming on.
No, thank you for having me.
Do you have anything you want to plug? Like, I know you have some packages that you have to offer here.
Yeah. So, you know, anybody that's listening, if you're interested in this, if you're a new client, everybody always starts out with an assessment, kind of what we went over last time, whether that's a running analysis, motion capture, or just a really thorough movement evaluation to figure out what's really driving your symptoms. That's a $99 special going into the new year. So that's about 60, 75 minutes. That includes some treatment. I'm opening up the wellness membership, which is a once a month membership style where you come in and it's like you have access to everything. We have an hour visit. That's $99. And then packages are right now, everything is broken up into phases of 6 visits, with the idea of the first phase is feeling better. The second phase is moving better. And the third phase is putting it all together into those movements. Like kind of, so it translates into your workout. So I always tell people, it's like, you know, feel better, move better, perform better. So usually those are chunks of 6 for people. You know, I go over everybody's option that fits best for them. And I do think I'm going to roll out some 30-minute visits for folks as kind of like a tune-up or a jump start. You know, for maybe they don't need a full-on hour, but, you know, they just need a little kickstart. So those are all the things. You can find me at online at ecotonehealth.com is the website. There's a form request, and then lots going up on Instagram nowadays, which is also the handle is Ecotone Health.
All right, Pat Campbell, Ecotone Health.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate your time.
Likewise.
Thanks everybody for listening. Stay healthy out there.